It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for this great moderation. Katie definitely announced the title, Immersive Experience versus Simplicity, What's Next? So this session should explore the dynamic contrast between immersive, transformative travel experiences and the rising trend of minimalist, conscious journeys. A warm welcome to Shabib Maamari, Jennifer Haack, Gebhard Reiner and Markus Weber. Yeah, thank you very much. So, I would say a great panel. Shabib, Oman. We all know and we dream Oman. Yeah? But what has Oman to do with experiences, and especially with the immersive experience? Is there something very unique in Oman?
Quite a few. Thank you for the introduction and giving me the opportunity to be part of this great panel. I would say the diversity that we have and the proximity to the diversity. So you could literally do more than 5 different experiences in one day, in half a day actually. You could start off by visiting one of the most beautiful islands we have, where you could snorkel and then swim right next to the whale shark. You could tap the whale shark, they're friendly sharks. You look at turtles, and then you sail for another half an hour, and you have the option of 3,000 kilometers worth of different beaches. You drive for another half an hour, you're in the middle of the desert, you could do dune bashing, or you could spend the night in one of the great camps that we have. Another hour, and you're at the top of the highest peak in the region where the temperature is so different, the terrain is so different, and there are abundance of different experiences there for people to enjoy.
And so has immersive experience to do with variety?
That's one way to look at it, but also the authentic part of the experience is what we strive at. We have well over 200 different experiences, 150 partners. 80% are small and medium enterprises. And these are not located in the capital area, they're all over the country. And we're trying to do, through the power of digital, we bring these experiences to the rest of the world. A quick experiences, something simple that can be hosted by a local family. They'll cook for you and they'll take you through the heritage of their house, the heritage of their village. We have villages that dates back to 400 years old. You could spend the night there, enjoy the day. And then you could pick some of these interesting experiences. One of the things that I always promote is stargazing. And we have land that are protected by the government for people to go and look at the sky and enjoy stargazing. But then we add to it a German-speaking tour guide who's from the local community, who is a specialist in stargazing and will take you through the constellation of different stars, tell you the story of the naming of these stars, how to use it if you're ever lost in the middle of the desert. And this is what we try to do always through the power of digital and power of distribution these products.
Mm-hmm. Immersive experience. What is the most immersive experience, Shabib, you have ever had in Oman?
Yep.
Could you give us an example?
Definitely. I would say my favorite is scuba diving, because again, you have a lot of biodiversity in the ocean there. And you could look at different whales, different creatures, different animals that are protected by law. You have many spots there. And then you have the infrastructure to support it. So wonderful airport, few hours away from the airport, and then you're in the middle of the Indian Ocean or the Oman Sea. And it depends on what type of creature you want. And then we have abundance of different professional operators that can take you through that experience.
Mm-hmm. Shabib Maamari is Managing Director with Visit Oman. What Visit Oman has to do with all of that, we will discuss a little bit later.
Sure.
Let us move to Jennifer Haack. She's an ambassador with WiFi Tribe, so discussing mostly experiences based on the digital nomadism, I would say. But as a digital nomad, Jennifer, do you find yourself seeking deep cultural immersion or a more minimalistic, flexible travel approach? Is it the one or the other, or both of them? So
Firstly, thank you for the invite. I think it's really great to have the remote workers and digital nomads represented here. As far as Wi-Fi tribe goes, it's actually a curated community. So again, with the immersive experience, it really depends on the group that comes together and where you're based. So we've had people, for example, that went to Oman for a month, that did scuba diving, and really apart from working the full-time job, because everybody does have a full-time job, it's not people just traveling, trying to get the most out of the experiences in the cities or in the countries where they're based. And I think as far as immersive goes, it's different for everyone. Some people really like to go, go out back, go hiking. Some people are more on the side where they say, hey, we've just experienced a power outage just like everybody else. So that's something we feel more adapted to the local community. But ultimately, it really depends on the group that gets together, the countries that you're choosing, and also how far you want to kind of go outside the limits. But oftentimes, we stay in accommodations that's not necessarily in the tourist hotspots. It's not the fanciest accommodations normally, not in like the prime real estate area. So I think that automatically gives us a bit of a different access compared to what you would if you travel somewhere for a week or for a weekend, and then just stay somewhere in a hotel that's a bit more in the, I would say, like expat area.
Is the digital nomadism changing a way?
It is changing. I think, number one, there's, on the one hand, it's becoming more, but also less. But there are discussions around sustainability, gentrification, also social impact. So what you can do as an individual to first open up more, but also to make sure that you kind of leave the place a little bit better than when you got there. So right now, we actually do have a group that's in Panama that's doing ocean cleanups, like diving, basically, scuba diving. So it is becoming more common, but at the same time, there are discussions that are happening on how fast you travel. Like, do you zigzag around the globe, or is it that you go to Asia or you go to LATAM and then kind of, use the train, use the car or other means of transport rather than just hopping on another plane and going somewhere else?
Another question, Jennifer, is immersive experience more a community-based experience or an individual experience, or a combination of that? What is your experience?
Again, I think it depends. It depends on the group and where you're at. But I think generally it's getting kind of outside of the tourist bubble and really kind of seeing what is there, like he was saying, that you can experience where you really get in touch with the locals and understand the local culture. Apart from just being there, going to the club, maybe looking at a site. So it's really getting in touch with locals and getting a better understanding of the country or the specific destination where you're at.
Super. Okay. Let's move to Gebhard Rainer, Chief Executive Officer with HX Hurtigruten Expeditions. Hurtigruten stands for some keywords, I would say: slowness, remoteness, uniqueness, for sure. But what has this to do with immersive experiences, Gebhard?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on the panel here. Let me just clarify first what Hurtigruten stands for and what HX stands for, because those are two separate companies. Hurtigruten is a company that's very well known in Germany, well known in Europe, and they do a fantastic job in creating unique experiences along the Norwegian coast with their ferry and postal service, visiting remote communities, visiting Norwegian fjords. We at HX Expeditions, we create experiences in some of the most remote parts in the world, in the northern hemisphere in the Arctic, and in the southern hemisphere in the Antarctic, and in some warm water destinations such as Galapagos, where we try to really address the curious traveler in a responsible way from a traveling point of view, and from an immersive point of view, create emotional connections to the destination that we go to communities, to wildlife, to flora and fauna in those destinations, creating awareness and hopefully creating a mindset change in the way we look at the world, and hopefully come back and think more about what these, specifically the south and the north poles, what they do for the climate for us and how this is changing and what we can do to impact and influence it.
Well, what is, in your opinion, an immersive experience when we look at, I guess, some very specific offers you have? So you are also working with research. You are showing results and impacts of research along the travel experiences. Is that something very unique? Is this a complex product? And in what way creates immersive travel experiences?
Yeah, it's a complex product, but it's brought across in a simplistic way to the consumer in order for the consumer to participate, for the guests to participate in what we do, both from a science perspective, an educational point of view, and a sustainability perspective. Those are the three pillars our organization stands on, and we're very firm about that. We are the leaders, have been the leaders in sustainability in our niche industry. So we were the first ones to drop heavy fuel oils, for example, in 2008. We removed all single-use plastic in 2018. We were the first ones to introduce hybrid ships, and we're using the only two electric hybrid ships currently in operation for expedition cruise. An immersive experience for us is really building emotional connections to the environment and the place that you visit. Emotional connections to the community, to the wildlife, to the flora and fauna, and making sure that the immersiveness of what you do and the opportunity to participate in science. Every one of our ships has a science lab on board. We have scientists on board that continuously participate in scientific projects. Globally, we have partnerships with over 30 different scientific institutes and universities around the globe. We, just by example, signed a very interesting partnership with the University of Tasmania, where we're doing a study on the behavior of guests, of consumers. When you take them into these immersive experiences to see what mindset change actually happens, how long does it last after they leave a journey like this? How much of their environment, i.e. their families and friends, have they been able to influence? And what changes are they effectively making to their lifestyle based on the learnings and the participation in scientific projects that they have done? So there's a lot of that goes on. We do whale projects. For example, we collaborate with a university in California, where we study and have been studying for the last 7 years the changing habitat of whales. Very interesting. I had the opportunity to be on one of our science boats in January in Antarctica with a university professor that does the whale study.
Sounds like a complex product, Gebhard. How you create a minimalistic experience for different clients, I would say. So is that something for retired people with a lot of money? We want to be on a Hurtigruten ship, or is it something also for younger people?
It's something for every age group, I would say. But it's not something that is mass tourism. It's not something that you buy for $2.99 a week. Just by example, it has its price because quality and experience should have its price. We're very mindful about the fact that the areas that we go to are areas that are very sensitive. So you try to minimize the ecological footprint that you leave behind as much as you can. You try to minimize the footprint that you leave on communities. Very important, because the integrity and the culture of communities needs to be maintained rather than being forced upon them as to what we require. So we do a lot of work in advance of voyages, 2-3 years before we actually put an itinerary together, where we work with remote communities up in the north, the Inuit, for example, in the north of Greenland, or the Vanuatu in the north, the Arctic Canada, where we talk to these communities and we try to figure out how best can you help them to develop an economic base, which they need. They need to have an economic base. There's high unemployment, there's alcoholism, there are some real challenges in their life, because for 7 months of the year, they have no access to anything because of the climate. And the other 5 months, when ships like ours go there, you have to be very mindful as to how you impact the community without doing more damage to it. And we bring this across to our guests in a very simplistic way by explaining to them on board in lectures as to what the area is that we go into, by making sure they understand the rules and regulations in order not to have contamination in biodiverse and biosensitive areas, by making them understand that you have to respect wildlife and keep a distance. Photographing wildlife is great. Touching wildlife is not so great. Sometimes it's very dangerous. And by really understanding as to what changes are happening that are affecting our life in the areas where we live.
Yeah. Fine, thank you for the moment. Let's move to the last one on the stage, Markus Weber, Chief Fantastic Officer with 20 years of experience in consulting, impact, and leadership. Markus, we found a book called Coffee to Go in Togo. One bicycle, 26 countries, and a lot of coffee. So it seems that you were motivated to go to Togo to drink a coffee. Seriously, are you crazy?
Maybe. So thank you for having me here. That's exactly the story that happened to me. In my former life, I was a typical business consultant, and then I had that crazy idea to find out if there's coffee to go in Togo. Because before I went there, I didn't find anybody who wrote about in the internet if there's coffee to go to Togo. So I quit my job, I bought a bicycle and a tent, and I cycled through Western Africa to Togo. And the coffee is not worth it. So Togo is a fantastic place to be, great country, but I wouldn't recommend the coffee, it's just Nescafe. But the journey, of course, was worth traveling down there. Mm-hmm. And I did it in a very simple way.
Mm-hmm. So you have explored many destinations, yeah? So you traveled through Western Africa. What is one place that struck the perfect balance between that, what we call immersive experience on one hand and simplicity on the other hand?
Well, I don't connect immersive travel experience with a place. So for me, it's really about traveling simple. And I traveled super simple. So just a bicycle and a tent and a couple of clothes, that was it. I didn't have a mobile phone, no navigation system. I didn't even have a proper map. So I just cycled there. And the good thing, the beautiful thing is when you cycle or when you travel without a map, you get lost. And that is really beautiful. I can recommend that. So just get lost in a place where you have never been, because then you have to immerse, because then you have to speak to the people, you have to ask for directions, you have to eat the food. And because I traveled with the bicycle, I couldn't escape. So I couldn't hop on a plane and just move out. So I stayed in beautiful places, but I also stayed in boring places. And that for me is really immersing in somewhere. You also have to see and experience the boring places to better understand the rest of the beautiful country and place. So for me, it's all about simplicity. That's the key to immersive experience.
Is simplicity that what marketing managers very often call the new luxury? In what way is this the new luxury? I could imagine that this is a question for all of you. But Markus, let's start.
Well, maybe. For me, it was super simple. Just me, no one else, and that was it. And because of me traveling all alone on a bicycle, I think many doors opened. I was no danger to anybody, so I was really openly invited, even in places that I've never dreamed of going, like Guinea, Sierra Leone. I was super surprised about how beautiful and how pleasant all the people were.
Hurtigruten charges a lot of money for the simplicity.
HX charges reasonable rates, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's
luxury can cost.
Yeah, and the simplicity of luxury costs. You have to pay for quality, and it shouldn't be overpriced per se, but you have to pay for the value that you get. And I think it's with everything in life like that. And specifically when you go into sensitive areas where, at the end of the day, money from a commercial point of view is needed in order to create protection as well, you have to make sure that you get paid the right price. But I think the important thing there is that you are trying to get people to, and I think this is along the lines of what Markus is saying as well, from a bicycling perspective, you connect. When you really allow yourself to emotionally get involved and immerse yourself into an area, into things, you connect, you emotionally connect. And when you start emotionally connecting, it triggers something in your brain, and it makes you think. It makes you think about, be it a journey on a bicycle going to Africa or about what's happening in the Antarctic and the Arctic regions, or about what has happened in history in Oman. I mean, there's so many things that I think from an immersiveness are so important that start triggering your mind to actually become a mindful traveler.
Mindful travel is, I think, a very good keyword. Coming back shortly to Markus. So there is a book. People read the book. Do they have to read that, or is it
very good book.
Basically? Oh, that's a marketing issue here.
Thank you.
So what about communicating also this spirituality, I would even say. Yeah? It's a mindful experience.
Well, it is absolutely a mindful experience. But again, I repeat myself, but for me, the simple way of traveling made the adventure, of course. And I learned so many things. Maybe one story I would like to share here. When I crossed from Guinea to Sierra Leone at the border crossing with my little bicycle, I did not know much about Sierra Leone, and I read up a little bit about the history, and I did only find the dark parts of the history, like decades of civil war and so on, and I was a little nervous. And what happened to me, I crossed there with the bicycle, I was immediately surrounded by 10, 12 border guards with those big AK-47 rifles, and they started to look through my bags, and the tallest guy came up to me and took my passport and flipped through the pages, and then he said, well, this guy just paid $150 for his visa. And then I thought, oh, I'm screwed now. I already saw myself handing out dollar bills to pass on, but exactly the opposite happened. That guy gave me back the passport, slapped me on the shoulder and said, I'm super proud of you. You paid so much money just to visit our beautiful country. And I've never dreamt of going to Sierra Leone, and I did not know much about it, but I repeat myself, so many pleasant experiences and people I've met because of the way I traveled there. So therefore, I like the idea of Hurtigruten HX and doing that in a sustainable way, but I'm still a fan of just doing that all by myself without any plan and without a map.
Just a long swim across to Antarctica.
That's true.
Yeah, let me now move back to Oman. So, Shabib, Oman offers both adventure and serenity. You were talking about that before. Adventure has a lot to do with challenging experiences, with intensity. So this is not serenity, I would say. We were talking about serenity. Adventure is probably the other way around. Do you personally prefer an adrenaline-fueled desert expedition or a slow cultural immersion? And let us discuss based on these examples, what you think about the immersion.
Yep. So from a destination perspective, I'll have to say both. Because we offer both. So we have the option of adventure. We have one of the biggest caves in the world. I think used to be number 9, now it's number 11. And it's actually very famous because if you remember the gentleman, Mr. Felix, who jumped out of space, came to Oman and jumped in that cave. It's so big, and he parachuted inside. Now it's been developed into a full adventure experience, and people would want to travel and go through that massive cave. But then you have the mountains also, and we have the valleys, what we call back home wadis, where you could hike for an hour and then swim inside water, and then go inside a cave and scuba dive inside a cave, and come outside in the ocean. It's something very different, and we have that available. You could do paragliding, you could do via ferratas, you could do mountain biking, or hikes that are on different levels. That some of these hikes go 4 days. One of the suppliers here that we work with, who's actually present, does a 2-day expedition on camels in the middle of the desert. Zero connectivity. So that's very immersive in the sense of the switch off period. It starts as adventure, but then it's very slow, very calming, very pleasant, very different from an experience perspective. And then you get to meet the local Bedouins. They take care of you. They're very hospitable. They'll try to sell you something, but that's also part of the offer. And they'll cook for you. And it's so different than your regular 5-star hotel. Beach front. We have that also, if that is something that you're looking for. From a switch-off perspective, if you want to be away, we have many options that has to do with beaches that run for 100 kilometers that has zero infrastructure around it, and you could camp there for days. It's very safe. It's very pleasant. White sand beaches. You don't even need goggles to snorkel. You could swim and look at many creatures. But then you have also the mountains, and you have the desert with 5-star camps or your regular tent. self-driving tours or guided tours in multilingual option. So many options there, where our role, if I'm allowed to say, takes place, is we aggregate all of this, we bundle it, and we plugged it on a booking engine, and we provide this booking engine to the rest of the world. What we've started doing, talk about simplicity from a tech perspective, is we started integrating our system, which is a B2B booking engine, to global platforms, the likes of Get Your Guide. Today, we announced our partnership with Trip.com. Tomorrow, we're announcing with Expedia. And we're feeding these massive booking engines our lovely content. And why do we do that? We do it for a very simple reason. We want to empower the local SMEs, these wonderful experiences, these wonderful gentlemen and women who can't make it here to ITB because it's quite expensive to exhibit here. We tell them, listen, it won't cost you anything, sign with us today. We will do the market and communication and the business development on your behalf. We will go and speak to many trade partners that are looking for these impressive experiences, that authentic experience. We will take you to the biggest platforms in the world through the power of digital. So there is a lot of digital enablement that's happening. This is the simplicity from tech perspective. We want to make it simple to book Oman. Today, if I tell people, go look at Visit Oman booking engine, they might consider it, but they're not familiar with the brand of the company. But they're familiar with Get Your Guide. They can Get Your Guide is now plugged, and we're feeding Get Your Guide with many experiences from Oman. So we're making it simple to book Oman for the end consumer, and we're making it simple for our lovely partners, 80% local SMEs, make it simple to go on a global scale.
So there is a question, what is authenticity? On one hand, we know about the experience Marcus had in Africa. So I did not have the impression that his experience or his adventure experience is a designed one. Meanwhile, you are talking about designing experiences, adventure experiences, bundling, and so on and so far. So functions of a DMO, obviously. You are representing a destination. That's fine for me. But now, Jennifer, what should we do? So what is authentic in your opinion? You are a group of remote professionals. How important is it to design things, or is it sometimes better let to go things as they are, so that we can have this real personal experience, a kind of reflection, bringing us forward? All of you are talking about transformative power of the immersive experience. So what is this transformative power?
I think for us, obviously, it's a lot of curiosity, also depending on the destination that we're going to, and also, as was said, the simplicity. A lot of people, you can often tell whether or not people are newbies or have been around, how much luggage they bring, for example. Like the ones that have been around will come with a carry-on, the other ones will come with 2 bags, so you can kind of see what the background is. And then oftentimes it's more about getting lost. So we don't pre-plan, like people might have a list of I want to check this or that, but generally it's more about running around, really talking to people and not being afraid to talk to people, because oftentimes it's a bit of the unknown, but people are a lot nicer than we oftentimes think they are, and they're very excited about showing you their culture. So oftentimes it's more the unplanned things where you end up having dinner in someone's house, or someone is inviting you to some party where it's really getting more into that kind of experience that oftentimes we're more looking for, because that's where we're kind of going a bit off the grid, or we're staying someone a bit longer, and we don't just kind of hop around and cross off the sites. So for me, it's really about kind of really getting yourself immersed in the local culture, not having any kind of expectations or preconceived notions, but really just being out there and really looking with eyes open and not just trying to get the destination, rather than really being like where you are is the destination and really seeing what's there.
Yeah, what has been your most unexpected of transformative experience while traveling? You were talking about expectations, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you go to countries where you're like, okay, it's going to be sunny here, people are really friendly, the food's good, and then you end up getting the typical stuff of it could be food poisoning, it could be that the weather is going to be horrible the entire time, it could be that you have constant blackouts, which makes work difficult. But I think, again, we're in a community, so ultimately everything is going to become an experience, and I think becomes positive, that then you light up the candles and someone has a charged laptop somewhere, someone has a router, or there's like any backup, where it really kind of changed it. So I kind of tried to go into places where I wouldn't necessarily go by myself, just travel. I tried to go a bit more off the grid, places that I haven't really heard of before, and then just not have any expectations. I think that's normally the best starting point.
We had a keyword before by Gebhardt. He was talking about mindfulness experiences. Yeah? So I can hear a kind of spirituality in his words. Yeah? Is it that what you can also confirm? So what is the spirituality of this kind of experience you are offering?
I think it's definitely a mindfulness and also kind of a reflection of where we come from and where we're going and what, like, almost like what's really needed in life. Is it the material things? Is it the community that you're with and kind of really living where you are? I think, again, it's probably different for everyone. There's not like a one-size-fits-all, because just like people go different places. We all have different experiences and expectations, or what we're kind of looking for at different points in our life. But I think it is kind of just an openness and really appreciating and being excited where we are and being mindful of where we are and trying not to leave a negative impact behind.
Yeah, coming back, Markus, I had a discussion with a journalist a couple of years ago. There was an accident with some travelers along the borderline between Egypt and Sudan. And he asked me, what the hell are they doing there? When they are in trouble, a lot of people have to go there and to bring back them. So is there a limit for that kind of experience? So where is the I would even say the limit of an immersive experience? Is there a responsibility, a personal, an individual responsibility behind? Or is it something where you say, well, I'm part of a society and someone will help me, someone will save me?
Well, to be honest, when I started my journey, I was kind of a single, and I was naively stumbling into the adventure, and I paid certain costs. So I got malaria in the middle of nowhere in Africa without any hospital. I got dengue fever, but the worst thing that happened to me, I got cursed by a witch in Ivory Coast, and that was quite tricky. I needed to go find another witch to get the curse back again. That is a different story. But nowadays, I wouldn't do it the same naive way, because now I have kids and a wife, and now I do have the responsibility for the family. But aside from that, I would just repeat the journey as it was again.
So we are coming to an end. A very last question. My impression is that this panel is a panel of people with transformative power, with the idea to change tourism, proposing different lifestyles, proposing also new concepts, alternative concepts to mass tourism. Today, once we talked about mass tourism. I'm not against mass tourism, but alternative tourism concepts can help to make tourism better in the world. All of you are doing that. Agents of change. Why are you an agent of change? Very short answer, because we are coming to the end.
So for us, it's simply connecting to the power of digital, that local small enterprise to the rest of the world, to have their product available.
Super. Why are you an agent of change?
I think generally I'm just curious and like to challenge the status quo.
Great. Gebhardt?
Because tourism and travel has become so affordable and so easy, and when you look at the world population, we in the industry have a responsibility to make sure that people understand the impact that they have on the communities and the environment when they travel.
Last but not least, Markus, coming back to that what you did in the past, sometimes it was a little bit naive. That's a great word, yeah? But naivety probably is also part of this, what we call immersive experience.
Absolutely.
Why are you, not only because you are a book writer, why are you an agent of change?
Because it's the easiest thing you can do. Just start the journey without a map, and it's the most sustainable thing you can do anyway. Buy a bicycle and just go and cycle.
Great. A wonderful panel. Big applause. Thank you very much. So.
welcome back at the ITB Berlin convention, thanks to Harald, who just jumped next to me. And we are using this momentum now of a little wrap-up, of a little echo of our first day here at ITB Berlin convention, when we are diving into the future track. So Harald, what a day, hey?
What a day.
What a day.
Yeah, that was a great day, I would say. All those who were participating at the different sessions, in my personal opinion, brought away or will bring away a lot of great knowledge from great people. I would even say that these sessions produced new knowledge, because obviously we are on the edge. We are discussing things which not always are even part of the industry. So from that point of view, the industry, in my opinion, has one problem. The industry is really, really fragmented. We very often heard it today. So we need network solutions. We need an industry, a tourism industry, which is much more a combine of the different sectoral industries. This is our biggest problem we have. But I learned personally a lot. It's about people. People management, people business. Again, is that what, at the end of the day, we have to do? It's not only about infrastructures, it's not only about technical issues. Clear, AI, we discussed it today, is obviously driving forward and bringing new kinds of ways how we can catch experiences, how we can jump into let me say, a deep dive experience of that, what today we call tourism. Who knows how long we will do that?
How do you look into the future of tourism economy and the tourism industry? What is this future of the tourism economy? What did you learn today?
Well, I would say tourism will always be. But tourism 30 years ago is not the tourism we have today. And tourism in the future will not be the tourism we have today. So I think a lot of changes. Tourism is always a window into societal changes. And we heard a lot about transition, transformation, and changes. So it was, I guess, Stefan Gößling to tell us that people do not like transformations. But once we see and once we feel the transformations, we have to react. And then we can also be fast. So tourism is not a driver, is not always an agent of change. Tourism follows a little bit societal and other let me say, transformations. But we can react, that's what we can.
Allow me that question, because we are living in these geopolitical turmoils and storms. Do you see the tourism industry also as a peace builder and a peacemaker, especially in these times?
I'm not really convinced about that, to say it in a clear way. That's what we often define as a narrative, as an important narrative. But have a look. Also, war destinations are destinations. Wars can create new forms of tourism. Allow me to say that. No, I don't believe that this peacemaking narrative is a serious narrative. Hence, tourism can create cultural experiences. We learn about other countries. We learn about the situations people have in a certain country. No doubt, there is a learning experience behind. And this can create a reflection. But I guess the last session was also showing us that we need more immersive experiences. We need more ways how people can reflect along the travel experience. Because if this remains just a standardized travel experience, this immersive experience cannot be a creative one or a transformative one. We need this transformative power. Otherwise, we just remain there, sit down and say, well, we are the peacemakers of the world.
Then we have to talk, of course, about artificial intelligence. That was also a very hot topic here on stage. So how will AI change our industry, tourism? How will it change traveling? What did you learn today from our panelists?
I think that machine technology, society technology relations will dramatically change. And in a consequence, this will also change tourism experiences. So no doubt that we have to keep an eye on that. More and more AI assistants are giving us advice, giving us, let me say, solutions for that what we look for. So for the motivations we have once we decide to travel. But this is the, let me say, the assistant idea of AI. More and more, the AI will be part of the experience itself. So. But the same with the whole society. This is not something unique and very specific for tourism experiences. This is because societies learn to use AI technologies, and more AI technologies will become part of our life. So it's not about combine things, but it's more and more about how create something new in this human-technology relations.
Coming up to the end of our little wrap-up, we are all travelers, right? We are all curious in a way. So what would you like to discover more? We have 2 days left at the ITB Berlin Convention. Is there anything else that you'd like to specifically focus on in the next days?
Well, today, Eduardo Santander, he was telling us, sorry, we cannot choose our guests. And he was also saying that time and money are drivers of tourism. So on the other hand, the last session was showing us that there are some small pieces, and once we connect these pieces, they can create a transformative power for the whole industry. I'm sure that the industry will change dramatically in the next years, and I like this, to be honest, because societies are changing dramatically. And so my special interest is how tourism can, in these big transformations we are experiencing now, become a more proactive part of societal changes. In a way, an agent of change. Because of climate change, we discussed it. Because of the technological drivers we heard about. So these are drivers who can create a kind of transformative power for the whole industry. We should show people how they can create new and eventually also sustainable lifestyles. Yeah? Tourism can be the window to show this. Yeah? Not everyone has to follow exactly that, but the travel experience should be an experience which we bring at home, and we integrate this in our everyday life. Ideally, this is the way.
Thank you so much, Harald, for this little wrap-up and for taking the time. It's been wonderful.
Great questions.
What a full day, right? Ladies and gentlemen, and that brings me to the end of our first day here at ITB Berlin Convention. It's been great to have you all on board in the live stream, but also here, the ITB Berlin family here in the orange stage. Thank you so much for joining, and thanks again to WTCF, our sponsor of the track. Well, we will see each other, of course, at the ITB in Shanghai, Mumbai, and Singapore. But before that, I will see you tomorrow here live again at the ITB Berlin Convention, of course, in Berlin. And with that, we see each other tomorrow around 10-ish for our morning coffee or our after-work cocktail if you're joining us from another time zone. And with that, I say goodbye. Thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.